and welcome to our first episode of discussions with Agata Orlik, Head of Recruitment from Spyrosoft. Today, we will be discussing about how to get hired, some insights from Spyrosoft's Head of Recruitment. Agata, would you like to say a couple words about yourself? And hello, welcome.
Of course. Hi, hello. And I'm really excited that we can actually kick off together the very first recording. So hopefully it will be interesting and insightful. Just a couple of words about my role. Spyrosoft, obviously head of recruitment, as you've mentioned, but I've been working with Spyrosoft for over 8 years now. It's actually yet again my anniversary. So I was fortunate enough to see many shifts, many changes, and many different ways of actually incorporating the candidate journey into the picture. So I'll be really happy to share whatever can be insightful for our future candidates.
So first of all, congratulations on your anniversary.
Oh.
For years to come.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, about your vast experience, my first question would be, in your perspective, what are the biggest changes that you've seen in recruitment in the past, I don't know, let's say 1 to 2 years?
The biggest change, I would say, is the shift from the candidate's perspective, from being more passive candidates to more active candidates. So for many years, even back in the days before Spyrosoft, when many of our colleagues in the recruitment team, we were very much engaged in some headhunting activities, or we cooperated with outsourcing agencies. It was always about the hunting part, right? So we really tried to turn every stone and find the right people. And most of the recruiter's job was basically revolving around directly searching candidates. So looking at the number of applicants, it was oftentimes the case that nobody really would apply for certain positions. Compared to what we observe today and for the past year and 2 years, obviously somehow connected to the bigger changes that we observe on the market within IT industry as well. So there are far more active candidates available on the market for various reasons, obviously, but there is many of them, and they are more active, they are more agile, and they are willing to apply, and they are more open to having conversations, which is amazing. Also for us, we have right now the capability of somehow switching our ways of working and also shifting a bit the attention from the stage of searching now to the stage of selecting and conducting the initial interviews. This is where the gravity is really put at the moment. The second element, probably worth later on discussing further, is also moving somehow beyond the traditional coding skills when you look at the perspective of requirements or clients' requirements, right? So it's not only about coding skills or technology itself today, it's something more, be it domain knowledge, be it a unique combination of certain skills, or the human skills, as we call it in a broad term. This will also play a pivotal role, I would say, in the selection or recruitment process later on. And of course, the abbreviation everybody is using these days, AI, right? So it's absolutely everywhere, buzzword. So the importance and the gravity of having certain AI interests or capabilities will also be more and more observable on the market, just to maybe have a bit of a backup with data, because when we talk about AI, it would be nice to showcase some data probably. Looking at the reports we have for the Polish market that were conducted by InHire, they checked the change or the shift between the numbers of AI-related job offers. So at the end of second quarter of this year, they reported yet again what are the statistics, and quarter to quarter this year, we've observed that these job offers grew by almost 50%, and when you check and compare year to year, it's over 150%. So indeed, the data somehow shows us that our intuition that there will be more and more about AI, not only AI, but mostly AI, the data seems to be aligned with the intuition that we have and with the trends that we observe.
I want to circle back to one of the things you mentioned, which is that because you are able to focus more on actually selecting the candidates and not as much with the hunting phase. I wanted to ask in regards to those human skills that you mentioned, the non-technical skills. What is something that you see is important? Can you mention maybe some I wanted to say adjectives, but actually there are traits.
Yes. It depends whether we talk semantics or some other aspects. But yes, for sure, learning capability might sound banal because IT was always about learning, because here we have emerging technologies, every corner. But this time it's sort of accelerated. So really, if at least from our observations, if anybody is interested in being like on the top when it comes to the skill set, then this learning capability will be absolutely helpful in this
learning learning with the facet of maybe also adaptability. I'm thinking that learning is good enough, but you need to also be flexible and understand what is needed. So I was just thinking maybe to add that to what you said.
Yes, absolutely. Adaptability, I honestly believe that this is the trait that we as human beings should be investing into, because this will for sure help in not only on the professional level, but yes, adaptability and proactivity, however we call it, but being hands-on and being ready to adjust somehow to the context, or being ready to switch the context. Also, what we observe is the trend, looking at our clients' perspective, that they also look for professionals who will be able to partner them, who will be able to advise, who will be able to speak up, who will be able to maybe discuss or question status quo. So this probably we could call, in general terms, like consultant-like approach. So it's not only coding, it's not only delivery, but it's like actively proposing certain aspects, also having this business acumen and this business understanding, like what the elements that I'm contributing with to the client's ecosystem, what do I bring, like how can we make it maybe better. And this together with the communication skills seem to be quite critical. And last but not least, maybe worth mentioning, is also the certain trend to look for professionals who also have certain domain expertise. So they can really bring certain domain expertise and experience to the table, and they already know or can somehow maybe mitigate certain risks, or they can maybe anticipate certain situations because they know the industry well, so they've been there a couple of times already. And it's really valued by clients to have a professional on board who already understand the context. So this is also something that we seem to be observing, not only as a nice to have requirement, which was often the case in the past, and now it tends to be more and more frequently a must-have requirement for certain clients or positions.
Mentioning the clients and the fit with the clients and what they are actually looking for, we've seen a trend of a lot of people mentioning that the recruitment process has become longer and more complex. Why do you think this happens?
First of all, sorry, it's not our design. I would say so. For looking at the basis of the recruitment process at Spyrosoft, we often have the three pillars. So the initial screening with a recruitment team, then
Mm-hmm.
some variation of technical interview, and then some variation of management interview. But of course, it's very true that nowadays we observe longer processes, and we usually have at least one additional step
Mm-hmm.
directly with the client or client's team or client's representatives. Sometimes it's more than one than step, and sometimes we also see that certain elements of online testing or exercises or surveys are also required. What we do at Spyrosoft is, of course, we look for certain ways to optimize that. So if we can maybe combine certain steps, or maybe we can move certain elements to some other step, make it smoother, easier, then of course we will always do it. We also try to, as always, advise our partners and clients about the candidate experience and about the perspective of how long can you wait
Mm-hmm.
before you somehow lose interest or simply find another opportunity. So
Mm-hmm.
we always try to have this shared understanding of what we want to achieve with our partners, and to somehow handle the issue and make it more insightful for the candidates and easier for them. We, of course, try to share this information upfront, right? So if we know that there will be some additional way of testing or some additional exercise needed or any other element that might be, let's say, non-standard, we would, in most cases, I believe, we're sharing this information. And of course, we always try to see the value in those contacts, early contacts with clients, because this is the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to really validate as a candidate the second party, right? So, okay, they talked with Spyrosoft already. Let's say we like each other, and then we move forward to the client part, and this is indeed then the, I would say, primal ecosystem of every professional here. So the project ecosystem. So getting to know your peers on the project side or client's representative can also give you a lot a lot of information regarding their culture, their ways of working. Do they have any elements that might be, not suitable for you as a candidate,
Mm-hmm.
or do you go along well with what is being presented to you? And we usually also encourage our candidates to ask questions. This of course is connected to proactivity that was already mentioned, but really we feel that the more insights you get throughout the process, the more informed decision everybody can take at the end of the day. And it's really about finding the best match. So if three parties involved, client side, Spyrosoft, and the candidate, can have the space to validate their assumptions, expectations, then this is indeed a good recruitment process.
I'm really curious to know how do we, and by we I mean the recruitment team at Spyrosoft, you girls, how do you tailor the recruitment approach depending on the location? Let's take, for example, Poland versus UK, because we know that the culture is different, the client approach might be different based on that, the contract types. How do you handle that?
Again, circling back to non-technical skills, we can adapt and we can learn. But honestly speaking, we also derive a lot of information from local colleagues, because we
Mm-hmm.
we have sites in Romania, obviously, in I want to say Deutschland, but in Germany, in Croatia, or in the UK, as you've mentioned. So we also have local representatives, oftentimes, of our recruitment specialists, but
Mm-hmm.
also of our people ops specialists, who are even more capable of delivering really specific and tailored information regarding benefits, compensation packages, forms of employment, and whatnot. So we rely on their local expertise and on our site's expertise, and we also, of course, are on the lookout to learn and search, so we can basically aggregate the global knowledge within our team. And this helps a lot. We also have employer branding colleagues, as we know best, who are also well informed and can help us tailor the communication to specific needs. And also, more from the formal perspective, what comes to my mind is that we as a organization, especially from the HR people ops perspective, we obviously try to keep up uh, and verify the context and the market around us,
Mm-hmm.
every market that we are present on. So, for instance, when it comes to salary matrix review, we do it for different locations separately. We rely on specific companies who can help us conduct such an exercise, or we rely on reports that are location specific and are valued and respected on the market. So we approach that individually, taking into consideration the local context. And from the language perspective, we are fortunate enough to speak decent English, at least. So there is some shared common ground that we can also use to communicate. Of course, we use the leverage of speaking local languages. So it's
Mm-hmm.
always nice in Romania to have maybe the initial
Of
conversation
course.
in your native language. But on the other hand, if you look at the requirements, the English language fluency is always there, right? So one
Yeah.
way or the other, we'll all end up in a situation when we speak English, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it helps to be even more agile in this respect, and be able to support different locations from different locations.
Thank you for answering my question. We will be moving to the second part of our first episode, which is where I will be asking you for a couple tips and tricks for the people listening. And the first would be, what advice would you give candidates today to stand out beyond the CV?
What we see in the CV itself, because moving beyond might be helpful, but just what comes to my mind when I hear the CV is also to, if possible, of course, because I understand this might be an additional effort. It's awesome to try to somehow customize it to the offer, or reflect at least the key highlights of your expertise that might be suitable for the role, right? So if you, for instance, apply for a role of project manager for embedded projects, try to maybe showcase just 1-2 embedded projects in your CV.
Mm-hmm.
There is this common misconception, at least I call it a misconception, that one-page CV is the best one, but it's not necessarily the case when you are an experienced professional. And then sometimes you end up really using buzzwords, or some general information, and you do not really incorporate those elements that might be critical, because, as we already know, we need to look for people with domain knowledge. We need to look for
Mm-hmm.
professionals who might be having some very, very specific experiences in their portfolio, and without knowing that, it will be harder to engage in the discussion right away, right? There might be some talent that will be missed simply. So that's one thing that comes to my mind immediately. But beyond the CV, what we observe also is that, for instance, especially for the engineering roles, oftentimes our professionals, our candidates, incorporate GitHub links, or they want to
Mm-hmm.
share some pieces of their portfolio, which is great because obviously it showcases their coding skills, and it's already an evidence we can somehow test and see what's the quality of the code. But what would be appreciated here, and what would constitute a good practice, would be probably to keep it very professional. So if your GitHub, for instance, is a note to self sort of situation, when you experiment, when you do some pet projects, it will for sure tell us a lot about your proactiveness and how engaged you are into building your skills, but this will probably not necessarily be a proper reflection of what the
Mm-hmm.
company will be looking for in terms of commercial projects. So it's good to tailor the information, and if you are sharing any additional elements, if you want to write a few words, a short pitch, I think, is amazing. And oftentimes the application forms enable candidates
Mm-hmm.
to just write a couple of words. And it can really tell a lot. And especially if somebody makes an effort to customize it somehow to the job offer, it stands out simply because we still verify the CVs ourselves, right? So there are no AI agents doing this for us. So it's quite natural that anything non-standard will somehow caught the attention.
I love how you already integrated what my next question would have been, which is how important is to read the job description carefully, which basically is kind of a starting point for creating your CV. Out of what I understood, reading the job description carefully means that you can cater your CV appropriately. But would you like to mention anything else on the topic of knowing the job description to which you're applying to as a candidate?
I will focus on the job descriptions that I know from Spyrosoft, because
Mm-hmm.
I know there are different approaches in different companies. So we usually are sharing as many information beforehand as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are any must-have requirements connected to technology or other elements of experiences, we will incorporate that, of course, but also certain certificates or certain formal elements that need to be fulfilled. It happens sometimes, especially if we
Mm-hmm.
think about joining a defense or aerospace or sometimes automotive project. You need to have some additional elements of your expertise apart from the engineering level. Sometimes we're also bound by location, which
Mm-hmm.
is, again, usually the client's requirement, as Spyrosoft works in a remote hybrid way, oftentimes, depending on the, of course, specific project and context. But sometimes the idea of our partner is, I'd like to build a development hub in Warsaw, let's say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they also envision certain close relationship building. They want our professionals to be immersed in their culture as well, to be able to use the office space, to be able to attend workshops or integration events, to work together. So in these cases, when this is not negotiable, we of course highlight that in the job description. So my advice would be not to assume, at least in our case, that everything is negotiable, because, for instance, location, salary ranges usually, or elements connected to must-have requirements, be it formal or engineering,
Mm-hmm.
these are usually solid and cannot be changed. So if you are applying for a role based in Zagreb, but you are based in Timisoara, then most probably we won't be able to find a way to make it a match in this particular context. So that's probably worth mentioning, just to clarify that not everything can be adjusted in this context. So it's really good to check the elements of the job offer and see if really for the critical elements you are indeed a suitable candidate. Because of course, if there are 10 elements that we might be requiring and you have 9, then absolutely it might be a great offer for you, right? Because there's
Yep.
always room for learning and improvement. And as we already talked, professionals are more than their CVs, and it's always good to get more knowledge during the process. But if the location or any other like formal elements will not be aligned, then most probably it will not be a good offer.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Thank you for answering and for the tips and tricks. Now I have a final question for this episode, which is if you had a magic wand that would allow you to find out what is one myth about recruitment and you would like for people to stop believing it, which would it be? Fix it with the wand. Now's the moment.
Yes, that's my Harry Potter moment. Thank you very much. A small one was already mentioned, so
Mhm.
I honestly don't believe that one page CV is a good option. This I can somehow highlight again, especially for experienced professionals. Maybe not 15 pages, of course,
Mhm.
but one page might be simply not enough to show what you're capable of, right? The second element, like a bigger one, is that I would really wish for our candidates to understand that if we reach out to them via certain automated messages or
Mhm.
template messages, it's not because we do not care about them. It's not because we don't respect them. It's quite the contrary. We respect them so much that we want to send any sort of message to really thousands of people, right, every single month. Having these automated elements that are obviously somehow incorporated into modern recruitment systems, they are to serve not a ghosting purpose, but quite the contrary. They are to send the message, even if the message is not fully personal, as we of course all wanted it to be. Then it is a message, at least a clear statement that somebody received your application, or what can you expect, or that you were rejected from the process. So this probably would be amazing to share, that it's not about lack of respect. It's the other way
Quite the
around,
opposite.
actually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Agata, for sharing. And thank you for everybody who tuned in. And I will be keeping my fingers crossed that your wishes will be granted. I will find my own magic wand to
Thank
grant
you.
your wishes.
Thank you.
And see you in the next episode.
Yes,
Bye.
see. Thank you very much.